Network Entertainment.
Hi girls!
And boys, kami ang
Lady Bosses!
Mga sister, let's!
CR tayo. Let's go!
Alright.
Alright.
Dahil malapit na ang, anong tawag doon?
Halloween.
November, Halloween. May ask ko lang ako.
What is it?
Ask ko lang. Ano ang paborito mong nakakatakot na nilalang? O kaya
Naks, ang
scary?
lalim.
Di ba? O kaya
Iba yung
scary.
term mo kanina eh. Laman
Oo,
lupa.
lamang lupa. Ito, scary creature.
Could
Yung
it
totoo hindi yung taong kinakatakutan mo.
scary creature? Lahat naman yan halos fictional eh, no?
Oo.
So, I would say, can I say something from the movies? Like,
sige,
sa Dako. Sa Dako. Noong una ko napanood yun, as in, inalis ko yung TV sa kwarto ko. Tapos since then, hindi na ako nanonood ng TV sa kwarto.
Talaga?
Tapos nawala yung hobby ko na nanonood ng TV.
Ang ganda nun. Ilang taong ka nun?
Handa na ako. Kailan ba nilabas yung Japanese version College, hindi, parang 24 siguro. 23 or 24.
Oo.
Ikaw, ano?
Ang ganda na lang. Ang ganda na nawala yung hobby mo to
Hobby
watch.
ko dahil doon.
Ako yung Incubus.
Ay,
Natatakot.
oo.
Yung nang-rape na
Oo.
kasi meron akong nabasa na short story about Incubus. Tas talagang takot. Nasa Baguio pa kasi ako noon. Nung college to.
Pag-isa ka sa
Binabasa ko.
dorm?
Hindi naman. Kasama ko yung kuya ko. Apartment kami. Pero, mas wild yung imagination ko kasi kapag binabasa ko versus sa pinapanood ko lang. Yung pinapanood ko lang kasi finifeed lang sa akin eh. Yung binabasa ko, ako yung mismo nag-i-imagine kung anong mangyayari sa akin kapag sa akin nangyari to. So, ang nangyari sa akin noon, talagang ilang weeks akong may hawak na rosary sa kamay habang bago matulog. Yung talagang nagro-rosary ako dahil takot na takot ako.
Paano mo ba na-visualize ang Incubus? In your
Kasi
head, how does it
Incubus,
look like?
hindi kasi sabi doon, yung mabigat daw yung katawan, yung mabigat yung bibigat yung katawan mo, hindi ka
Hindi ka
makabangon.
makahinga. Oo, tsaka
Oo,
hindi ka
parang,
makahinga.
oo. So, basically, wala kang magagawa.
Give in
Diba?
na lang.
Oo, give in na lang. I-rape ka ng visit.
Kung bakla yung Incubus, nakatuwad
Syempre,
ka.
hindi magre-rape yun ng babae.
Itutuwad ka.
Sa lalaki.
Di ba? Paano yan?
Dahil dyan, tanungin natin yung lalaking guest natin.
Hello, world.
Di ikaw mag-introduce.
Okay, we have a guest for today's period. Mr. Joseph Montecillo, who's also a stand-up comedian, and apparently he has a new book in the market, launched very recently.
Yes,
What's
it's
the
very
title of your
exciting.
book?
My
Joseph?
book is In the Blood and Other Stories. It's out now with UP Press. Came out last week, October, I believe 17 or 18. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Thanks for having me on.
First,
Yes.
what's the book about? Is it a compilation of different scary stories, or all is written by you?
Yeah, they're all written by me, and they're a collection of my horror stories that I've been publishing since, I believe, 2010 is the earliest story that came out here. And just to cycle back, by the way, my favorite scary creature right now is probably the Babadook from the movie. It's from this Australian horror movie called The Babadook, and it's like this storybook. He lives in a storybook, but then he haunts this mom and her son, and it sort of ruins their relationship. It's like a specter that represents their grief and their sadness. It's all very A24 kind of horror. Although I don't know if it was released by A24, but still, that's my favorite right now.
Mahaba ba yung baba ng Babadook?
He wears like a very silly hat. Like, parang top hat. It's very funny on its own, but when you see him like move, it fucks me up.
It's creepy. So is it a cartoon, a movie, or
It's a movie. It's a movie. It's actually quite sad and very dark, but it's one of my favorites from the past decade or so.
The Babadook. Nakakatakot nga siya. Ano siya 'no, itim?
It's like an
Oo.
adult horror movie, but there's a kid in it, so that makes it scary.
Oo nga,
Oo.
why does it look scarier if there's a kid in it? There's a creepy kid in it, or there's a doll.
Yeah, that's what makes it scary, is that supposedly it's a children's storybook, but there's this horrifying thing in it.
So in your book, Joseph, is it from real encounters?
No, I'm not nearly interesting enough or have the sight or whatever it may be. But there's stuff. I think all writing pulls from your real life in one way or another. So and then I pulled from different sources as well. So it's a lot of different influences and things that go in there. But I've never really had a any encounter I would deem supernatural.
Unless it's about your ex, right?
Oh God, those are stories we don't tell anymore. Those don't go into the book.
Oo nga 'no, iha-highlight mo pa siya, eh, 'no?
Yeah, oh my God, no. They don't get to be part of it.
Oo, baka sabihin pa niya, "Oh, ginamit mo ko, kailangan ko ng cut diyan."
Ay my God. That's the true horror, is exes coming back for royalties. Like, please no.
Mahilig ka ba talaga sa horror ever since?
Yeah,
Nung
when I
bata?
was a kid, I was super into the slashers, in Jason and Freddy.
Oo.
And I didn't even watch the movies as a kid. I just looked them up on like the internet because I would catch clips on HBO or whatever. So I'd be like Jason Voorhees on the internet, and
Oo.
there'd be this website that listed all their kills, and I'm like, whoa,
Whoa.
look at all the gore. But
So,
for
tas
years, I didn't see the movies. I just knew about them.
pero now, were you able to watch?
Yeah, I've sort of caught up to my interests now. I still haven't seen a lot of the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I've seen some, but I've seen a lot more horror now and read more horror. So yeah, it's a fun stuff. Right now, my girlfriend and I are doing our Spooktober. So we're only watching horror movies or anything spooky for October.
Saan 'to, event? Is this an event?
No, it's just between us, and then we make a little list on Letterbox to track everything we've been watching. And then we rank
Oo.
our individual lists. It's fun.
Oo nga.
Growing up, Joseph, doesn't it make or doesn't it mess your mind when you were a kid, when you loved horror stories?
I bet my parents and my family were very worried about that. Because it wasn't just horror stories. I was like third grade watching like true crime documentaries and
Exactly.
yeah,
Oo.
CSI, forensic
Oo.
science, and they were like, this could go very wrong."
Oo.
They were definitely like, we have to keep an eye on this and make sure it stays in check.
Jeannie, di ba ganyan yung mga the makings of serial killers?
Na
Di ba?
alin?
Yung mga
Yung
gusto nila
mahilig sa
yung mga criminal.
Hindi
Yung,
naman.
di ba
The
ganon?
hindi, feeling ko yung the making talaga of serial killers is abusive parents
Tama.
and
True.
and hindi magandang childhood. Yun yung making.
True.
Pero kung fan ka lang naman, more on ako fan ako ng true crime. Mas
Yeah.
gusto ko yung psychological effect, psychological parang studies about it na
Mm-mm.
bakit sila naging ganyan, yan.
Correct, oo.
More on curious what goes on in their mind. Pero not necessarily gagawin ko yung ginagawa nila. Parang
You
gano'n.
know, Joseph, you remind me of Neil Gaiman.
I
How
hope
do you
not.
pronounce? No,
Bakit?
Not
he's
after
a
he
good
got
writer.
canceled.
What? Because of what? I'm not updated.
There's
What
like
happened to
a
him?
misconduct thing. It came out a few months ago, so recent-ish, yeah. But
What happened
I
exactly?
don't. There were all I know is there were some women,
Oh
a few
no.
women that made
Okay.
misconduct claims about Neil
Oh
Gaiman.
no.
Yeah, well, it happens. Unfortunately, not
But he's a
not
good
a
writer. Yeah,
he is a
sayang
good
naman.
writer. I can't take that away from him. He is a good writer. But an unfortunate thing that happens in both industries, I have my toes in. So
Oo
comedians and
nga, no?
writers just
Oh
happens
no.
all the time.
Is that a good combo?
Oh, I feel like a lot of people have sort of talked about it in recent years. Like I'm far from the only comedian that's done horror stuff. Probably the biggest name right now is Jordan Peele.
Oh
So
Oh,
yeah, Jordan. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Oo
oo.
nga, no?
got his
Oo.
start doing Mad TV and sketch comedy, and
Yeah.
now he's
Yeah.
one of the
Director.
horror directors. Yeah, so
Oo.
uh, I
Ano nga
think
yung
it
first movie niya na
Get
ano?
Out.
get out.
Ayun,
Yeah,
Get
Get
Out.
Out.
Oo.
Oo. Tungkol
Tapos
sa
Us ba
And
yung
then Nope is the third. Yeah.
the third Nope? I didn't
nope,
like Nope
nope.
too much.
Oo.
I think my favorite was probably either Us or Get Out.
Get Out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Get
leaning
Out.
Get Out. Yeah.
Oo.
Actually, dapat ginawa niyang title Blackout na lang eh, no?
Gago.
Kasi
Napaka
nagba-black
Ayan.
The stream protected D from saying anything potentially insensitive.
Nag
Zoom could tell it was going squirrely there.
nag-freeze ka
Yeah.
nag-freeze ka di habang sinasabi yung mga
Yeah.
racist slurs mo.
No, it wasn't racist. Nag-blackout yung mga, di ba, yung mga victim. Yun
They do
yun.
black out. That's
See?
true. They do pass
Oh.
out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I've heard it said na parang it's about because comedy and horror are both things where you're going for like an instant feedback, an instant reaction from your audience, either the fear or the laugh. And it's a lot
Ang
about
galing.
anticipation, timing, those kinds of things. So I think that's why there's an overlap between the two.
And also,
Oo.
you're able to tell like uncommon truths.
Yes, very much so. Like both fear and laughter, like they sort of like disarm you, and they're able to get at the heart of things. Like
Right.
what you fear and what you find funny are both very
Right.
telling. So
Right.
yeah,
Oo. Nahilig ako sa ano yung one sentence o two sentence horror stories.
those are so good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oo, 'di ba? Parang parang 8 years ago, ang dami ko shine-share na gano'n na mga two
Yeah.
sentence horror stories. Tapos parang parang na-addict ako tapos I look it up, parang gano'n. And then ang dami talaga.
Anong
I
example nun?
I think the funny thing is that because it's like a subreddit, two sentence horror. A lot of people just use it as a comedy platform because when you do two sentence horror, it's a setup punch like a
Oo.
joke,
Right.
but for scary. But yeah, if you want an example, let's see what's on their subreddit here.
Oo. Parang,
Okay.
sige.
Yeah, here's the top one on their subreddit. It's been 4 years, 7 months, and 22 days since I started suffering from locked in syndrome, unable to move my body or even communicate with anyone. I still have 20 years, 4 months, and 9 days left to serve of my sentence. So there, it's like your two sentence horror. Like I've experienced this for this long, and I have 20 years to go. So that's the top on Reddit right now. The subreddit is R two sentence horror. For the listeners who want to check that out for themselves.
Have you ever
Eto.
considered, oh yeah, anyway,
Meron
go
pa isa.
Jeannie.
My daughter won't stop crying and screaming in the middle of the night. I visit her grave and ask her to stop, but it doesn't help.
Oh, that's
Creepy!
good. That's
So
good.
creepy.
Sobrang nakakatakot. Ito, last. My wife woke up last night to tell me there was an intruder in our house. She was murdered by an intruder 2 years ago.
Oh,
Oh.
that's sad too. That one's sad. Oof. That's a good
Wait,
one.
yung iba dyan, baka totoo, no?
Oo, pwede.
Who's to say? You never know. We can't ask all of them.
Ito, pinakalas, ito. My sister says that mommy killed her. Mommy says that I don't have a sister.
Yeah, it's classic. It's good.
Creepy.
Those are so good. But yeah, it's
Oo.
set up punch like
Yeah,
jokes.
oo. So, parang siyang parang siyang yung mga dark comedy
Yeah.
na yung
Yes.
gulat factor.
Oo.
Oo, kaya parang, wow!
Shock factor.
I bet we could put some of JP Aguilera's jokes on two sentence horror and it would fit right in. It would be
Yeah.
just fine. Yeah. So shout out JP.
Meron ba tayong mga ano dito, like horror reading, like 'di ba meron tayong spoken
Spoken
word.
words.
Mm.
Meron ba tayong ganon dito sa sa Metro?
Philippine scene, yeah.
Oo,
I feel like it would just be like your standard book reading or book signing events put together by like a publisher or a bookstore or whatever. But I don't know if there's like an open thing where people can just come and like share stories, or at least those aren't things that I've seen personally or been invited to.
Oh, maybe you can start one, 'di
Oh my
ba?
god, like horror open mic.
Oo, horror open
Horror
mic.
open
Tapos mga
mic.
ano lang, 5 sentences maximum.
Yeah.
Diba?
Ay, ganda. Pwede.
Anyone who bombs at one of the comedy open mics has to do the horror open mic.
Pwede. Pwede. That's a
Kasi,
good idea.
kasi when they bomb, yun na yung start ng horror
Yeah,
story.
yeah, exactly. You weren't funny, but maybe you'll be scary. So that's possible, sure.
What reaction should you expect from the audience? Like, di ba? Kasi pagka comedy,
Yeah.
may tawa eh. Pag kunyari ganyan, silence lang would be enough.
Maybe like a shiver, like you feel it
Oh,
move through just
shit.
ooh, like ew. Yeah.
Naihilang pa rin.
Oo, naiiyak.
Yeah, exactly.
Taas balahibo.
Yes,
Ganon.
goosebumps. R.L. Stein.
Oo. Oo, R.L. Stein. Ano yung mga binabasa mong books when you were younger?
Okay, so this is how it really started. Is I was in second grade, and at this point I had already been like Jason, Freddy, blah 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 blah. And I said to my mom, "Can I please read The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas
Oh,
Harris?" Yeah,
shit! Uy, favorite ko yun.
it's
Favorite movie
great.
ko yun. Hindi ko siya binasa, pero
They're
pinanood ko
both
siya.
wonderful.
Tapos,
Yeah, and because my mom is lovely and supportive, she was like, "Okay, here's Silence of the Lambs." She bought me a copy.
grade 2
I was
ka?
grade 2. I read the whole thing.
Oh my God, nakakatakot ka.
Yeah. I would have been the freaky child. It's true. But yeah, like there is a horror movie where there's just a kid sitting there reading Silence of the Lambs. So that's real. But yeah, that's how it started for me. Is that I started reading Silence of the Lambs and a bunch of other thriller, detective, horror stories, and Stephen King and all that came later. So yeah.
Oo. Grabe ka, nung grade 2 ako, ang binabasa ko, Sweet Valley
Valley
Twins.
High, Sweet Valley Twins. Ako nga, Choose Your Own Adventure, yung mga ganun.
Oh, those are good too.
Oo.
I
Pero binabasa ko din ang Nancy Drew.
yeah,
Yan.
those are classic.
Yeah.
Mga Immortal, listen to the Underpaid Podcast with me, Stanley Chi, wherein we talk about work-related topics in a light manner na parang nagchichismisan lang tayo or nagkukwentuhan. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or kung saan ka man nakikinig ng podcast. Kita-kits!
I read
Hardy
a
Boys.
short story recently by an author named Paul Tremblay, and his story is called, I think it's called A Haunted House is a Wheel Some Are Broken On, something like that, something long like that. But anyway, it was structured like a choose your own adventure story, but for adults, where you're a woman returning to your haunted quote unquote house and exploring the rooms and sort of remembering your trauma there. So yeah, that's a very good story I read
I'd look
recently.
into that. Interesting. Oh, I was telling you off air that some of the top Spotify podcasts are about horror stories.
Yeah.
So we were wondering if you can read a portion of your book.
Game.
Dapat yung ano asing delivery na nakakatakot.
Sige. I will do my best.
Oo.
I'll read you the first few paragraphs of the first story in the book.
Bitinin mo
Okay.
sila, Joseph.
Yeah. I know this game. But yeah, here we go. The first story in the book is called The Girl in the River. And let's do the classic horror thing too, because this is true. The Girl in the River is based on a true story, which was recorded by Nick Joaquin in his book Reportage on Crime. So this is based on a true crime story, and
Wow. Alright.
I added my own little bits, but the heart of it is true. So here we go. The Girl in the River. It had been a hard death. That much was clear. The Pasig River had spit the girl out at the end of a long storm. The body had been found drifting with all the other trash people hoped the river could take away from them. Somehow, the filth always comes to the surface. The medical examiner for the Pasig City Police Department found that the 8-inch wooden crucifix shoved down the girl's throat had blocked the Pasig's water from getting in. There were other injuries too, like the bruises all over the body. Marks around the neck seemed consistent with manual strangulation. An X-ray showed several fractured bones, either from a struggle or from the stormy waters. Then there was the empty glass bottle. Its faded label read, "Holy water." based on the level of decomposition, the body had been in the water for 36 to 48 hours. The bruising and the genital mutilation suggested only one possibility: murder. So that's a nice little
Ganda.
sample.
Scary.
Oo,
D looks so distressed.
nakakatakot.
Yeah.
Oo. Ang ganda kasi ano siya, may halong parang shit, baka pari yung gumawa nito.
Maybe,
Oo.
maybe,
'Di ba? Or someone sa Kristan or
maybe.
anyway, parang
But
gano'n.
yeah,
So
no,
parang
and I will add, like, the sad truth is that those details were taken from a real crime.
oh
So
shit.
not all of that came from my imagination, but I did put my little spin on it.
Parang na-distress ay parang
Oh.
na-stress si ano, si
So,
D.
I think D wasn't ready for what this podcast would become. It's okay, I'm still a comedian, I swear.
Alam mo sabi ko kay Joseph, sabi ko, bibili ako ng book. So bumili na ako, kakarating lang niya kahapon. Pero sabi niya sa akin, Jeannie, let me know if you liked it or whatever your feedback is. So sabi ko, is it fulfilling kapag sinabi kong hindi na ako nakakatulog dahil dun sa
Oh my
libro?
god, yes. Yes,
Yes, though.
that's like
Yes,
killing in a crowded room. That's awesome.
Yes, though.
Yung mga kill ni Joseph sa sa libro niyan to, yung mga ano, yung mga dark yung dito sa ilalim ng mata.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hindi na
D's
nakakatulog.
discomfort was me like living it. Like I was like, yeah. Mission accomplished.
Yung mga fans mo, mga goth, ganon.
Sure, yeah, just people who
Oo.
are into that kind of weird stuff.
Oo nga, nakakatakot. Shit, parang gusto ko na basahin lahat.
Yes. And the weird thing is when I first started I've been writing for a really long time. I was lucky to be published very early. Um when I was a kid, and I wrote one story which I thought was just like a little weird, just a little kooky, you know. Um and that was published in a book, and then after, people came to me and they were like, "Why'd you write something so scary?" And I was like, "Oh, it was scary? Okay." And then that was the first time I realized, like, okay, maybe I have a thing for horror. Like, even when I wasn't intending, it came out a little scarier than intended. So I sort of
When
leaned in
did you
after that.
start writing these stories, Joseph?
I started writing fiction professionally, like selling and stuff, around 2008. So I must have been 11 or 12, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. My
Oh.
mom was very, very supportive. That's why the book is
Oo, kailangan
dedicated to
talaga ng
her.
ganun.
Yeah,
Ang
she was the
Oo.
one.
galing.
She was the one who was like, "You're writing these stories, you might as well send them somewhere and maybe
Oo,
they'll bite
publish.
and publish it." And they did. So I was very, very lucky to have a very
Oo.
supportive mom, very supportive
Oh.
family.
Oo.
Also, the school was very supportive. It was good stuff. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
very lucky in that
So
sense.
for this book, how long did it take for you to write all of the stories there?
Altogether, it's like, oh god, 14 years, 12, 14 years.
Okay. Okay.
So it's all spread out. So I wasn't always like directly working on it, but just
Okay.
producing these short stories that came out over a decade's time. And then finally I had enough of them where I was like, I can put it all in one and
Oo,
just try
kasi
and
may
sell it.
comedy pa in between eh, no?
Yes, exactly. No, for real. Yeah, that's definitely something that takes up the time as well. So there's a lot of stuff to be balanced. I also started comedy about like halfway through the production of this. So I
Mm.
started comedy 2014. That was 10 years ago. So
Mm.
doing both at the same time.
Susabay. Pero healthy naman kasi kailangan mo rin talaga ng ano, ng something to hindi yung
Balance out.
oo, to balance
Yeah,
it. Hindi yung parang puro dark stuff na lang yung
for
nasa
sure.
isip mo. Oo.
And
But
I
and your jokes are not that dark. I
no,
mean,
they're
they're
not.
actually very fun and light.
Yeah, they're really
So,
like
oh.
standard observational stand-up comedy. But yeah, they never really cross streams for me.
Mm.
Galing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm just always been that kind of person where I just jump from one thing to the next based on just what I'm curious on, what I like to do, and then
Mm.
I just
Pero
sort of stick
maganda
with it.
kasi natatapos mo.
The stories?
Yes, I mean, kasi may
You
mga
accomplish both, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
You
oo.
achieve in both. So I guess you're not bipolar, because
No, yeah, I guess so. There are always things that there are always like still goals left, where I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm.
now the short stories, maybe I should write a novel, or obviously when you're in stand up, you're like, one day I'll have a special my 1 hour, all of that. So there's always these milestones you're trying to
Yeah.
hit.
So where
Is
can
this
we
your
find your book?
uh
Yeah, it's being published right now by UP Press. You can get it from their website, or you can order it from their official store on Shopee and Lazada. It's probably
Yes.
easier to search UP Press and find their store to find the book instead of the title. I feel like that it's harder with the SEO to do that. So look for UP Press's bookstore, and the name of the book is In the Blood and Other Stories.
Oo, sama namin yung link, yung sinend mo sa akin na link
Yes,
when we post
please.
this. I think tomorrow na 'to, 'no, Di? Is this tomorrow
Tomorrow.
to
Yes.
mare-release na
Episode. Yeah.
tomorrow? Oo. So, 'yun.
Yeah,
Is
get
this
a
your
copy in
first
time for Halloween.
Oo nga, is
Exactly.
this your
Yeah.
first book?
This is my first solo book. I've had stories in like anthologies where it was a bunch of authors, a bunch of different contributors.
Mm.
This is the first time it's just my work, so I'm
Yes.
very, very pleased and happy
Oo.
about it.
Ako na-excite ako nung sinabi first time na sinabi ni Joseph sa akin, "Jeannie, mahilig ka ba sa horror?" Tapos sabi ko, "Oo, mahilig ako." Tapos sabi niya, "Oh, sakto bebentahan kita ng libro ko."
Yeah.
Akala ko akala ko akala ko may libro siya na second hand na ibebenta niya sa akin. Tapos sabi ko,
No.
parang ang weird, no? Parang ba't niya ako bebenta? Tapos kinabukasan, nag-post na siya na nag-post siya na may book siya na sinulat. Sabi ko, ito pala yun. So parang inantay ko talaga hanggang meron na yung link. Then, yun, bumili na ako agad.
Yeah, Jeannie
Ako
was
yung una, ako ba yung
Iniisip ko
unang
pa kung bibili
bumili from
ako.
the comedians?
from the
Stress ako eh.
comedians. I think you were the one of the first to message
Yay!
me about it. Yeah, Jeannie. I think I also saw Steven Sagad mention he
Oo.
got a copy. I think Giselle Nicolas did as well. So a lot of comedians have been super supportive,
Mm.
sharing and posting about it. I've been super 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 appreciative of all the support to get the word out there about it. So thank you.
Ang diverse ng talents ng Comedy Manila, actually.
Yeah.
No?
It's a weird group of
It's a
people. We do
weird
so
group of
much stuff.
people.
Yeah.
Super!
I think you have to be weird to be a stand-up comic, you know.
Oo.
No one ever shows up and is just a stand-up comic. They're a specifically broken kind of person.
Totoo. Alam mo ba, ito hindi politically correct pero sabi ko, ang abnormal naman itong taong na 'to. Basta may mga iba-ibang comedians, ang abnormal naman itong taong na 'to. Tapos sasabihin sa akin, sino bang hindi abnormal sa atin?
True. A comedy green room is just what's wrong with you today? Like never been normal, never been
What
standard.
triggered you today?
Yeah, exactly. What traumas are you bringing on stage? Like, that's all it is.
Kaya maganda lalo na sa mga open mics, maganda pumunta dun kasi hindi mo alam kung ano yung mood ng yung open micer. Kasi may time talaga, hindi ako mag-o-open mic. Tapos
Mhm.
nangyari sa akin, galit na galit ako sa anak ko. Tapos sabi ni Haika, "Jeannie, dalhin mo yan sa stage." Sabi niya. Tapos dinala ko siya sa stage. As in, galit na galit ako. Sino may mga putang inang mga anak dito? Mga ganun. Mga gano'n. Tapos yun, natawa sila dun sa mga sinabi ko. Tapos may one person nag-message siya sa akin. Tinatanong niya ako kung totoo ba yung sinabi ko or jokes lang.
And that's part of it, right? That's
Yeah,
comedy
Yeah.
and horror, right? Like you guys were asking me at the start, is there real stuff in your book? So
Oo.
and that's the beauty of it. Some people will never really
Wonder.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Never
Oo,
know.
So after this book, are you planning to write another kind of it or iba naman?
So there's a bunch of stories I've published that didn't make the cut, not because they were worse or anything. I just tried to fit the theme, and I wanted to keep it nice and brief for everybody. So there's more stories I want to build around, hopefully put together enough that I have a second collection. In an ideal world, a novel or two comes out. But every writer says that they start a million novels, and however many get made. So
Oo.
we'll see. I can't promise. I know myself that I'm lazy enough to fail people on this front. So all I'll say is that I would like to, and maybe if everything comes together, it will happen.
How is it so far? Yung may yung sales ng books, yung gano'n?
I was told it's doing pretty well
Oh,
for a
wow.
very new release.
Congrats.
And I'm very lucky about that. Obviously, I have a little bit of an advantage. I have sort of like built-in audiences in a bunch of different communities. It's weird, right? Like I have my Twitter and YouTube fans who like wrestling, then all my
Mm-mm.
comedian friends and all my writing friends. So I just sort of dragged everyone together and was like, buy the book.
Oo. Meron bang signing, like live signing
I am
soon?
planning an event with the
Oo.
help of my cousin, and the details are not yet set in stone, but
Oo.
hopefully you guys will know more by November when I'm back in the country. Yeah.
Oo. Saan ka pupunta?
I'm going to Canada. My cousin's getting married, so I'm just going to take a
Oh.
vacation for a couple weeks, 3 weeks,
Mm.
and I just won't be thinking about much of anything. Like I don't bring my laptop when I go abroad, so I'm just sort of
Okay.
in the moment. Hopefully, I get like 3 minutes
Story.
out of it, Sana.
Oo, tama. Oo, tama.
Either a new horror story or 3 very funny minutes.
Yeah.
How
And then
about a
I
movie?
oh God, that would be nice. I would like that. If someone ever was like, I'd like to buy the rights to option it or whatever, I'd
Oo.
certainly hear them out. My first job was with Star Cinema.
Oh,
Yeah,
artista ka?
I
Wow.
wish.
Star Circle ka ba, Joseph?
No,
Isa ka ba sa Star Circle?
I was not beautiful enough for that. They saw the glasses and they were like, no. But yeah, my first job was pitching stories for to be made into
Oh.
movies, and none of them ever were. So
Oo.
maybe this is a way to get it out there, and people will
Kasi
like
love
it enough.
stories, gusto ng Star Cinema
Yeah, they
talaga.
like their love
For the love, for the
stories.
love
Pero ano pinipitch
scenes.
mo? Horror?
I would pitch horror. I would try to pitch family dramas, whatever was the assignment at the time. But I'll put it on myself. I had no real talent for trying to put together a movie that Star Cinema would find marketable, and that's understandable. It's a very specific skill, and I didn't have it. So I didn't last long at that job.
Oo. Shit. Sige, i-ano mo, 'di ba may mga comedy shows ka pa, upcoming comedy shows, so pwede mo i-plug.
I've got no more for October, actually.
Talaga?
So yeah, I'm
Babakasyon na rin
good.
siya eh.
Oo nga
Yeah,
pala.
that's
Oo
Dapat
nga
pala
true.
pala.
ginawa mo roadshow ng autograph signing mo this
I
coming
wish.
Halloween.
I know,
For
but
trick or treat, the villages, oh.
I will say I reached out to some comics in Canada, so maybe I'll be able to do an open mic or something
Right.
abroad. But otherwise, nothing really set in stone for the coming weeks. I will let the gigs come as they may, and you'll always see updates on whatever I have on my social media.
Alright. Thank you,
Alright. Thank
Joseph.
you,
Thank you,
Joseph. Ang
guys.
saya mong kausap.
Thank you for
Oo.
having me. I love this.
Oo. Okay, mula sa kaboses ninyong isa sa mga naunang bumili ng book ni Joseph, Gina
Yes.
Lakay.
At mula sa kaboses niyong na-stress nung binasa ni Joseph yung part ng kanyang book, si D. Kami
Kami
ang
ang Lady
Lady
Bosses.
Bosses.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Joseph,
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.